In the last 10 years, I mixed vocals for over 400 different artists. And I wanna share with you this one easy next-gen mixing hack that took my mixes to the next level. So stay with me and listen closely as we're gonna move fast. Here is the first example. We have a pop song with a lot of instruments playing at the same time, and I like to talk about a very detailed approach to integrating the vocal into the instrumental. Now, I don't want to focus on the EQ and the compressor settings I used to shape this vocal. Instead, I want to walk you through the actual process, the step-by-step framework and approach that you can use to consistently get the best sounding results. Okay, first, let's establish that great mixes have great balance. This balance refers to how well different elements of the mix, such as vocals, instruments blend together to create a cohesive and pleasing sound. There are several different ways to achieve that balance. There is general volume balance or placing elements on the stereo field. We can even create dynamic balance using compressors. For the purpose of this video, I want to focus on using EQ to create harmony between the instrumental and the vocal. And when I say EQ, I'm referring to a non-traditional approach. Now, keep in mind that I would normally reach for this EQ after I've applied processing to the vocal. So step 1 is asking yourself, what is the focus of this song and what is interfering with it? For me, the vocal is the top priority. This is gonna be the main focus. There are few elements that might competing with the vocal because I chosen to mix them louder. However, these elements are also important to the overall mix. These elements include guitars, organ and piano we have here. Let's concentrate on getting the piano and the vocal right, as they do play on the top of each other throughout the song. This brings us to the second step, which is very important. This is when many tutorials tend to lead us into the wrong direction. So what you want to ask yourself is the overlap and competition between the instruments and vocal a static problem or a dynamic one? What I mean is many of us have been taught to address this issue by simply scooping out some mid-range of the lead, which creates a pocket for the vocal. Technically, it solves the problem, but it also creates a new one. Now, what happens when the vocal pauses between phrases? Does the EQ still need to be on? And what about when the vocal gets quieter and louder from word to word, section to section? Does this 4/6 dB dip work for all situations? And what about when the vocal frequency shifts as the singer hits different notes? The EQ stays the same at the same frequency. Well, this method tries to address a dynamic issue with a static solution. This can lead to overprocessing and potentially damaging the mix when it's totally unnecessary. For this situation, we're gonna use a dynamic EQ. This is when it starts to get interesting. There are many plugins that can do this. For this instance, we're gonna use Soothe. We place it on the piano, set the sidechain to be my vocal, and you will see the plugin automatically adjust the piano level based on the vocal's changing dynamics. I can adjust how intense it is. I can change the resolution to be more detailed or broad and even ignore specific frequencies. It offers a very high level of control. It's a great plugin, but also an expensive plugin. So let me show you a free option which also gives you awesome results with a little less control. This plugin is called the Masker. I'll drop the link to it, and you will find a lot of other free plugins on that website as well. But you can see you can set this up similarly to Soothe using sidechain, and it will provide a similar level of detailed response. It perfectly ducks the piano around the vocal frequencies. And let me point out that this approach isn't just a vocal mixing trick, it can be applied to any element in your mix. You can use this dynamic EQ with sidechain to fit drums, guitars, or any other elements, just to name a few. The approach is exactly the same. While this is amazing, we are not finished yet because we need to address another important question. This brings us to step 3. In which part of the stereo field does this competition exist? We need to take it one step further. My goal was to duck the instrumental around the vocal. My vocal is pretty much in mono, centered in the mix right down in the middle. However, if we listen to the guitar or piano, they are spread out differently. They are stereo sounds positioned across the stereo field. They do compete with the vocal in the center, but they don't overlap in the sides because the vocal isn't present there. I don't want my EQ randomly ducking in areas where there is no vocal presence, as this could lead to losing volume and impact on my instrumental. To check this out, we place Soothe on the instrumental and switch it to a mid-side EQ. This setup allows you to independently EQ the mono portion of the signal from the stereo side portion. For this example, I only want to reduce the mono or mid portion of those competing frequencies. Since this is a dynamic issue as we identified earlier, I can use mid-side mode on a dynamic EQ. I'm gonna use Soothe for this because I believe the masker doesn't have the built-in mid-side mode. Potentially you can use the Waves F6, which is a much cheaper option. I'm gonna adjust this to mid, so it will only reduce the mono portion, with the sides remaining completely unaffected. Now this approach is very precise and solving my exact intention. Quality mixes come from thoughtful decisions, and these 3 steps offer a solid foundation for EQing any competing sounds in your mix. If you enjoyed this video, I already picked the next topic for you. There is always more to explore, so tap the video on the screen and see you there.